Hey, everybody, I'm Mark Horner. Welcome to Horner's Corner. I was reaching into my hat today thinking, what do I call this? And I wanted something simple and memorable that didn't lock us into a specific time of day or a day of the week. So I went back to my high school days where I was a writer for the high school paper at Cascade High School, the Stehekin, and I had a little column called Horner's Corner. Bounced it off a couple of people. No one said yuck. So here we are. We'll see how this goes. And it's my pleasure to be joined as panelists here as we have some pleasant conversation and share this evening. I've got Janine Sadola from Vancouver Island. Hello, Janine.
Hello.
You're always such a good sport joining these things.
It's really great to be with you, Mark and Tom.
Yeah, Tom is Tom Fonts on Whidbey Island. How you doing this evening, Tom?
Excellent.
Excellent. Tom actually worked today. He gets up really early for work, so I really appreciate Tom taking this time, especially since this would typically be where I suspect he's unwinding listening to the Mariners, right, Tom?
Definitely.
Is that a photo that you took behind you for your background?
Yes.
All right.
One of my many hikes.
Uh, well, Tom, thank you for agreeing to not only be here, but you're going to share sometime down the road here your top 5 or top 10 list for hikes on Whidbey Island here in Washington State and share some of your photos with us. So I'm looking forward to that. I should point out that I know that Tom's connection is kind of touch and go. Hopefully that we'll maintain it. If he freezes and locks up and we can't hear him or see him move, we might just ask Tom to go ahead and enjoy that Mariners game and listen to the stream here as well and give us score updates on that ball game. Fair enough, Tom?
That's fine.
Okay, great. So to kind of lay this out, like the title says, I'm really all about building a community. Many of us, the three of us anyway, we had that on Periscope for years until Periscope disappeared. There are alternatives out there. I thought I would try something like this as well and see what the feedback might be. We can talk about tech. We can talk about live streaming. We can talk about photography. Heck, as Tears for Fears said, we could talk about the weather. But the main thing is we can come together and share knowledge and build that sense of community. That's something I'm very much looking forward to and I really liked about Periscope when we had it. First of all, let's kind of just go quickly around the horn. Janine, what have you been up to? I will talk with Tom in a moment. He's been busy with work, and I know you've been busy with work.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'm a realtor in Nanaimo, Vancouver Island, and it is busy. We have a lot of multiple offers on everything. I hear it's going on all over the place, even in the States. And there's a lack of housing here right now, and it's a challenge to find a home.
Yeah, it's got to be a stressful time. I mean, business is booming, but it's got to be a real stressful time. And I people might think it's a gold mine opportunity for real estate agents right now, but the flip side of that is there's so much pressure, so much competition, so much demand, and people are pretty intense at times. Fair?
Yeah, it's a very emotional right now. Um, People are in bidding wars, so one person pays too much, the person that gets it, and 7 other people that have bid on the house don't get it at all, and they're disappointed. So everyone's disappointed in the process.
But you've seen some happy buyers and sellers too along the way, right?
Yeah, it's a real challenge though, and it's difficult to explain to people, how it all is right now. So I've been working 19-hour days, 7 days a week, 7 days a week. Yeah.
Uh, you got to take care of yourself. I sense a potential thread here as we segue to Tom. Tom, people are buying and selling houses like hotcakes. That's got to translate to, I would think, a busy time for the Home Depot where you work.
Most definitely. We're crowded every day, busy with people. And unfortunately the prices have gone up on everything. Today they went through and added $2 to all the paint prices. They went up $2. So they keep going up, and it's getting expensive to buy paint or anything. The lumber has gone out of this world prices. So yeah, it's a crazy time.
How does so you've been at Home Depot for a number of years. I see you posting anniversaries on Twitter for various Home Depot employees. I get the sense you've been there, what, maybe at least 3 to 5 years, if not much longer.
Funny you should say that, because on Saturday I will celebrate my 7th year anniversary there.
Ah, congratulations! And
Thanks.
you're at the friendly Home Depot up at Oak Harbor. Is that right?
Okay. That's right. And it's
Um,
one of the smallest Home Depots there are in the United States. But it's big to me, but you go to other stores and you can see how small it is.
so,
So
what are perhaps the top three things people should know when they go into Home Depot or just maybe even a hardware store or such similar store in general? Can you think of a few things to share that would be wise?
3 things they should know. I don't know how to respond to that.
Okay, well,
Um,
if something percolates, you interrupt me and let me know. I put you on the
okay.
spot.
Yeah.
Okay, look, for example, when's the best time to go if you don't want to stand in line?
Well, you know what? We're open at 6 a.m. I'm there at 6 a.m. and not a lot of people are getting paint at that time, just contractors. But it's a good time because we're not busy at all. Between 6 and 8, I don't have a lot of customers coming through. So if you want to not wait in line, get up that early and get your paint, because we're open.
Busiest time.
The busiest time I would say is between 10 and 1. Yeah, we get a line of people waiting for paint at that time anywhere really, but in my department, I see the people waiting. They start at around 10 o'clock and right through lunchtime.
Janine, when you hear Tom say that the prices just keep going up and up at the Home Depot, do you have Home Depot up in Vancouver Island? Are you familiar with it?
We sure do. And I've heard that the average house is costing another $35,000 in material right now. And oftentimes
Good,
builders
yeah.
they can't give you a quote on the house because, it just won't work. They just
Tom,
have to do it as it comes.
Tom, you said something as Janine was sharing that initial thought about the additional $35,000. Did you say
Yeah, that's
something
what
there,
I
Tom?
heard too. That's what I heard too, that you have to add another 35,000 to the prices now of homes.
Oh, that's crazy.
It is.
Um, I'm just curious before we leave this topic, which we will do, I'll move on to something else very shortly here. Tom, how does that translate in terms of what you see at work, in terms of the vibe in the store? Is there a great more intensity? Does this result in more stress for people who work in your industry? Do you notice, is there a change? Are there these changing pressures, if you will, when things get so busy?
Well, it is a lot of stress because what's happening also, as you know, people are not wanting to work, not wanting to go to work, or they can get more, staying home right now. And so they've hired at least 25 to 30 new people at my store. Half of the people I walk around the store and I just don't even know who they are. I know they work there because they have the orange apron on, but I don't know them from anything. And so you have that added stress of customers want something and they're brand new and they don't know, the policy or anything with it. And so there's that added stress to that too.
And then is it difficult to have any flexibility in your schedule right now or take time off, any of that stuff? I know you recently got to go to Palm Springs for a little break, but I would just think that when it's so busy and you're a senior person in terms of your time at, we're both getting long in the tooth, but in terms of your longevity at Home Depot. So I'm just wondering, is it tough to get time off and all of that when business is as crazy as it is right now?
It is, because right now in the paint department, we had 5 people. One person got fired when I was away on vacation. So we're down to about 4 people now. And there's just not enough time to cover the schedule for, 7 days a week being open. So we're kind of doing overtime and just covering everybody's shift just to cover that. So yeah, there's that added stress too.
Wow. I did add a question for today, and I just want to take, well, first of all, let me just kind of scoot to the side. It looks like we might have another, we have an attendee. Arnold Burkhoff is here.
Oh,
Arnold?
Arnold's my friend,
Oh,
and
right on.
he is so intelligent. He knows so much about the forestry
Oh,
and the industry here,
that's
and
wonderful.
he might want to join.
Well, I tell you what, Arnold, I have options here. I'll present you with the opportunity. Well, I don't want to. I don't want to put pressure on you. I can allow you to talk. I could also promote you to panelist, which means you could be on camera. But you can also just let us know in the chat if you see where the chat field is. You may not see it initially, but if you go down on the Zoom application, there should be, when you move your cursor down there, I believe it would probably be the same for you. You'll see some options, some icons emerge as you move your cursor. And if you click chat, that'll expose the chat panel. And just go ahead and type at the bottom there whether or not you'd like to be seen and heard. Reminds me of growing up English. Children are to be seen and not heard. Anyway, there is that option. I'll allow you to talk too, so we can hear your voice right now. And I can see that you have a muted, or you were muted, but you're no longer muted. How you doing, Arnold? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm doing fine.
Oh, can I bring you on as a panelist? Do you want to join the conversation?
No, Janine just texted me and told me she was going to be on, so I
Okay.
thought I would kind of just listen, and if I had something to say, I'd
Okay,
Go ahead.
fantastic.
sense work.
Well, thank you. I'll go ahead and mute your mic so you can move about comfortably. But if you decide you have something to say, raise your hand. There's an option to do that, or jump in the chat, and I'll bring you back on board. Thank you,
Yeah.
Arnold.
Sure.
Yeah, we can even talk about the exporting of raw logs. This is your opportunity, Arnold.
Well, I tell you what, one of the things, you guys, I'm in the shallow end of the pool when it comes to knowledge of your area, even though I'm not too far away. I'm down in Washington State. But the spirit bear is one of the things that I've been really fascinated. There's another name for the spirit bear, but the white bear along on some of the islands and along the British Columbia coast is really cool. And there's some, Jenny, when we did the documentary about the herring spawn, I got to do a little bit of research, and I found these guys. I forget the name of the organization that they're with. There's more than one great group up there that's really doing excellent science and eco protectionism as best they can to raise awareness about what's going on in the forest and the waters there. And obviously there are some existing pressures and no doubt looming pressures. And I can't even actually really imagine everything that's on the table for people who care about protecting that space and that environment, that habitat and those species. There's a lot on the plate there. But gosh, one of the groups, their photographs on Instagram, I know I shared one of those accounts with you, just beautiful photography, both underwater and in the forest areas, and the wolves on the beach and things like that, stuff that most people don't get to see. So really awesome.
Yeah. Arnold knows all about the all of that. You want to say something, Arnold?
You don't make the man talk.
Yeah, I mean, just jump in here. I think what you're talking about, Mark, is probably when they did the EBM management at the Great Bear Rainforest.
Yes, the Great Bear Rainforest.
Yeah, so that was certainly, even though I was president of the union at the time, we were basically the first union to say that we needed to work with environmentalists in the forest industry. And you got to think about British Columbia, 70 million cubic meter cut at that time. It was a huge cut. So to look at anything that would slow down that cut, particularly from a union perspective, was a hard thing to do. And to finally put yourself on the same side, not the same side, but there shouldn't be a side, but put yourself in the shoes of the environmentalists to say, look, we need to find a way to protect just exactly what you talked about, the wolves on the shore, the salmon, the right of grizzly bears to roam freely, all those endangered species, and at the same time protect jobs. Big job. But they're still working on it. But I think if you take some time to look at EBM, that environmental based management, you're going to find that, it's a big success story working. And the other thing that's different here compared to the US is the situation with First Nations, because most of the First Nations here don't have treaties. Where it's different in the States where they were mostly treated off. But here it's not like that. All these treaties are being negotiated now. So there's going to be a huge change on land ownership. And a lot of it's going to go to First Nations.
Well-
How that affects forestry, it's going to be interesting to see.
Well, first of all, that's quite the headline. I did not know that. I think you referred to it as perhaps the first of its kind with when a union and an environmental group or the environmental side kind of aligned themselves, not saying that we share all points of view, but we agree that we need to work together. Let's do it. And then actually doing it. If that's what you're telling me, that sounds extremely uncommon.
Yeah, that's exactly basically what happened with the pulp paper. Well, it was the pulp paper woodworkers at the time, but we started. The trade-off obviously was the log export issue that Janine talked about. We said, we don't need to be exporting 6, 7, 8 million cubic meters of wood to the US or to Korea or Japan. We can mill it here. We can create more jobs and at the same time protect what's left of the old growth. And that's the battle that's still going on. Started in the mid-90s with the clackbot, and the battle's not over. But the unfortunate part is every day we lose more and more old growth, and at the same time they continue to export 6 to 8 million cubic meters of logs. So it comes down to a government decision, public pressure. But right now there's a war in the woods heating up in British Columbia.
Wow.
And I don't think it's going to be pretty.
War in the woods. It sounds like there's war on the water and in the water because there are concerns about fishing, obviously, herring and other species, right up to the orca. And that extends down here into Washington State. It's kind of really neat today, despite some of the disturbing trends and deep concerns, how the thread has developed here between Janine, Tom, and now Arnold. Earlier, Tom was talking about the price of wood skyrocketing and the demand for wood lumber where he works, which is a Home Depot store toward the northern end of Whidbey Island in Oak Harbor, Washington. That obviously comes as no surprise to you, and you probably wouldn't be surprised if it continues to climb, the prices, that is.
Yeah. I think that's the one thing that, you would think that would be a commodity we would never run out of because you can plant trees. But the fact of the matter is the world is running out of wood. And, a lot of that is to do with deforestation, palm, other areas of the world where they deforest and plant palm plantations. So there's all kinds of reasons why climate change. But it all leads to the fact that there's an attack on the health of the forest. And then when you look at the health of the forest, it's exactly what you were talking about before. You look and see an orca and you wonder, how does an orca relate to a tree? Well, if you don't have healthy salmon runs, and because the orca feed on salmon, it's right down the chain. They're the top predator. And so it affects everything. Really, how we treat our land base and how is really how we treat this planet. And we need to make changes. We cannot continue down the path that we're on right now. It's just got to change. People have to accept that they have to take less, and that we have to start caring for the planet, because if we screw this up, we don't have anywhere else to live. We're in big trouble.
I grew up in a union household. I'm not anti-union, but I wish more union people spoke like you. You seem like you're on a really open-minded end of things where you consider all factors, and that's really good to hear. I'm also really reminded of when I was a young reporter, a young television reporter here in Washington State in towns you may not have heard of, but Wenatchee and Yakima. And I remember one of the big industries nearby was, I think it was Boise Cascade.
Yep.
Lumber industry. And I remember doing those happy stories about, hey, all that clear cutting on the hillsides and the foothills of the mountains, that's all okay, because look at all these millions of happy little trees that we put in their place. And this is a system that just continues to renew itself. So what broke? Any idea, Arnold?
Yeah, Mark, you got to think about, once you cut trees down, okay, you clear cut an area, you can plant trees from now until the cows come home, but you won't have the same forest. Those forests are the product of thousands and thousands of years. As soon as you change the soil erosion, you create fire hazard, all kinds of things. Fires, people are afraid of fires, and I get that. But fires, when there was no people, we still had fires, but it didn't destroy the forest. It was actually part of the renewal. So all those things change when you clear cut, and I get that. I was in the forest industry. We need to do that, but we also need to decide on how much of the area that we need to protect, and that's where the fight's going on now. We can cut all the trees down tomorrow, and a lot of people will be rich for a day. But after that, we're going to really, really struggle with what's left of this planet. So we have to make a decision.
Yeah. It seems to me there needs to be some sort of international approach to healthy forestation. I'm reminded of when in the late 90s, early 2000s, I was covering a string of big forest fires in New Mexico as a reporter at that time. And ultimately, May 10th, it was a Wednesday, 2000, I believe. A controlled burn got out of control. High winds picked up outside of Los Alamos, New Mexico. And a fire called the Cerro Grande Fire resulted, and it burned a lot of homes, and it threatened the Los Alamos National Laboratory, which was no small concern. A big issue at that time, and it's not unique to that area. It is the controlled burn issue, because historically, as you know, fire was a natural part of the forest life. There was a healthy cycle that would occur. I don't know how many lightning-caused fires occur every year, but it's a lot. Most fires people never even hear about, if I understand correctly. But what resulted was, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, but a thinner, healthier forest. But now there's pressure. People, with the spread of people, we don't want that fire, that controlled burn nearby. But at the same time, if something catches fire, there's so much fuel there that the next thing you know, you're packing fast to get out of town and driving with flames on both sides of the road. So it seems, I don't know if the strategy in terms of how we deal with all of this has evolved, where there's something more sensible in place. But I do know this. The trees, a lot of them in the Southwest, at least 20 years ago, were in really bad shape because of infestation. And I'm forgetting the name of that pest now. You'll remind me, but
Pine beetle, are you talking about?
yeah, and it leaves dried out, dying timber, which goes up like that. When Los Alamos happened, I got behind the lines, and I was right across the street from, exploding tall trees that were crowning. You know what I'm talking about, and embers. Because fire creates its own weather, and it just pushes things fast. And huge embers were coming across the road. I remember my keys were on the pavement, and I had to reach down and had to time my reach to grab my keys because all these big glowing embers were coming. And my photographer's like, "We got to get out of here now, Mark." So, and then you'll see these plumes, and you'll see fires in these magnificent plumes. So everything's been getting incredibly dry. Anyway, these are some of the thoughts that come to mind as you describe the issue, because I think what you're saying about what we have now, there's a real threat to what we have, and we don't really have many other options. It's our planet or bust. I think that's very true. It sounds perhaps oversimplified, but there needs to be a huge wake-up call, it seems to me.
Yeah, and Mark, there is, so I don't want to monopolize the whole thing, but there's a way to manage forests. And 20, 30 years ago, people got together in, I think it was Oaxaca, Mexico, a group of environmentalists, and they talked about setting a standard, and the standard is called the Forest Stewardship Council. And it is the gold standard of how you manage forests. So you look at all the aspects of high conservation value, First Nations that actually live in the forest, people that want to log the forest. You look at fish, you look at everything. And so it's worth your while, and maybe even do a program, but on the Forest Stewardship Council and what it could mean, because it's a voluntary certification. Industry doesn't like it because it does take timber out of the logging base, but it also allows for a set amount of timber that you can manage at a manageable. I'm not saying sustainable, because nothing's sustainable. I don't know that.
Yeah, that word sustainable gets used rather loosely, I think.
Yeah, but this is about well-managed forests, and it's hugely important that we do that. So Forest Stewardship Council, it's it is the driving force behind how you would save the forest. It's a worldwide organization, and it is the gold standard on managing forests. So I spent 20 years off and on that board in Canada, helping develop standards. And there is a fair amount of certification, but not enough. More, actually, quite a bit in the US, but still not enough. So there's an answer to all this. We just have to be willing to listen.
What I love about that is you're saying there's hope, which is really encouraging, especially from your point of view. And I think the headline again is Union and Environmentalists unifying. There's some unity there in realizing that there are some common goals and that they need to work together. That is really cool to hear. Cosmic Rose on YouTube asks, which beetle is the name of the beetle again?
The pine beetle.
The pine beetle.
But there are other pests. I mean, there's spruce budworm. There are other pests, but the pine beetle is what's devastated the industry in the interior of British Columbia. It's absolutely devastated the industry. So it's a pine beetle.
Okay. And before we move on to another topic, could you please tell us again, did you say, I think you said this organization that is doing things the right way or laying the proper groundwork, I think you said it's in Mexico, not New Mexico, but in Mexico?
No, it was started there years ago when a small group of people got together and decided that they would work towards building a standard. So that's just where it got its roots, but it's now headquartered out of Berlin. I think, Bonn, Germany. But there's a FSC US, FSC Canada. Most countries around the world have a branch of Forest Stewardship Council. So it's basically a worldwide organization, but headquartered in Bonn. Germany.
Okay. Well, Arnold, thank you so much. I'm going to move the topic along, but that was a great dive. I know it's relevant to everybody on the panel. I know, for example, Tom is an avid hiker. And so when we talk about the environment, when we talk about the woods, the forest, I know that rings a bell with Tom and so many people who enjoy it out there and want it to be around when our kids and grandkids and so forth come of age. So thank you so much, Arnold. That was on the spot there, and you delivered some golden nuggets there. Thank you. Appreciate the new awareness that we have. All right. So, Tom, I just wanted to ask you, did you have any thoughts on all of that? I know that you enjoy getting out, as I mentioned.
I love getting out, and I try to get out every day. It's beautiful, to get out in the middle of the woods. It's all quiet, get away from everything. And sometimes I just sit down and meditate for a little bit. And I just love it. I've found it took me a long time in my life to find out what I love, but this is what I love, hiking every day. So, yeah.
And doing so with your dog, Bella.
My girl dog, yeah.
Yeah. Janine, any thoughts on what your friend Arnold, and thank you so much, Janine, for inviting Arnold. What a great addition. Any thoughts on what Arnold had to say?
Well, when he talked about fires, it reminded me that when there is a forest fire nearby, it inhibits our ability to sell houses. And the real estate market will stop because the sales that happen, they aren't able to get insurance. If you're within 20 miles of an active wildfire, all of a sudden you cannot get an insurance binder or an insurance policy. So, that really affects the real estate market as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no fun. I know it kills vacations. We didn't go to Semiahmoo for a couple of in-state little mini vacations up near the Canadian border outside of Bellingham. We didn't do that for a couple of years. The last time we went, the fires were so intense, that the sun disappeared well before sunset. I'm not even talking about like just before the horizon. Well, it was still reasonably 15, 20 minutes away from sunset. The sun just disappeared, which means the air quality was just horrible, and that's no fun either. Well, it's we're halfway through an hour, so I think we keep pushing forward. Tom, you're not obligated to stay, but I love having you here. If you're still interested, hang on. If not, feel free to take off any time. And I know there's a ball game and you've had work, but it's really nice of you to be on camera and to contribute, Tom. And you added some really good information from that perspective of what's going on in stores like Home Depot. And I thought it was pretty cool the way it tied into everything here tonight.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to see if I can bring something else to your attention. Okay, I'll start by talking about it. Tech. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about my studio setup, just in case it's of interest, because some of the stuff that I'm using is really affordable and might be a solution whether you're indoors or outdoors. And so what I'll start with is I'll talk about the camera that I'm using. I'm using, Janine, you'll like this, I'm using the iPhone 12 Pro Max as my webcam. Come on, you're supposed to be going, what? Yeah,
There it is.
I know that's your phone. Yeah. So the way I'm doing it is I'm using an app called Filmic Pro, and that's Filmic. Then second word Pro, and I think the Filmic Pro team is out of Seattle, but I've been using that to shoot video on my phones for many years. Better part of 10 years, it seems, going back to at least 2013. It's a great app for shooting video. But now it has, among the many features since back then and now, one of the more recent ones is what's called Clean HDMI Out. So I'm using a little HDMI adapter and then what's called a capture card. In fact, I think I should be able to show you the capture card. Let me see if I can share my screen. Filmic Pro. There you go, Cosmic Rose. So there, I think. Are you seeing an Amazon page?
Yes.
Okay, so that is a little capture card. It's called the Cam Link. Now this one was around $120 or so, but there are less expensive versions for around $20-$30, but they don't have quite the clarity as this one. Now I will also point out that there are other options, and I'll just come back off of that. Let's stop sharing for a moment. I'm learning my way around these different monitors in my room. Just a second. There we go. For example, what I have been using when in my studio most often is my DSLR, my Canon 7D. And the way I would bring that in was I was using an app that I bought back in like 2014 called SparkoCam. And SparkoCam allows you to bring in either your Canon 7D or if you have a Nikon. It works with most of models of these two brands, manufacturers, Canon and Nikon. So, but here was the rub for me, you guys. I'd like to spend time outdoors with my Canon 7D. And so it was always like a nuisance. I know it's not a big deal, but it's just a nuisance to reach behind everything, take out the wires, blah, 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 get a real battery in instead of the fake battery I would use in here for the Canon 7D that you can plug into the wall so you don't run out of battery power. And then when you come back, you know, ultimately, if you want to use it again, you got to hook all the wires back up. And I've got kind of a small room here. I'm fortunate. The room is actually, it's part of not a basement, but a bonus room. It's my office. People probably in similar places store their junk, but I built we made mine an office down here. It's worked out real well for work. And I have a brother in construction, one of my brothers in construction. He built 2 walls against existing walls in the corner here. And the result is, and we put a door in, I've got my own little room. And the idea was to do it for simply recording audio. I record audio, do some voiceover for work. And unfortunately, my main enemy was my computer because it was loud. So I kept my computer out in the main room, ran cables from it, through a hole like this into this little room, and then I have my microphones, and I can keep the beeping and all the other noise that R2D2, my computer, makes away from the microphone. So that was the original reason for it. But yeah. But anyway, Filmic Pro is a wonderful app. Now I will tell you that in terms of using it for a webcam, I first tested it with my old phones. Normally my wife and I, Triple Tall, is their Twitter handle. We would normally trade our phones in, but you don't really get much for them. And to me, they have value as cameras. So I decided to start keeping our phones. So we had our most recent old phones around. So I tried her iPhone 7. It got so hot using it as a webcam. I mean, so hot, the screen went black with simple, un-Apple-like text because the visuals were not very pretty, but the message was loud and clear. Emergency shutdown, overheating kind of a thing. So I don't know if you've ever seen a phone do that. Maybe you have. Sometimes when we have our phones in the cars, they can overheat if the sun's blasting through. And so then I tried the iPhone 7 Plus, and it was doing well, but it was hot. And there are some guys I consulted on a YouTube channel called Office Hours, and several of them said, "Oh no, we use Filmic Pro," and one guy said on his iPhone 7 it does really well. So I thought, man, well, I know how it is with smartphones, especially Apple. When it comes to our batteries, they can get kind of wonky. The older they get, or the more Apple wants us to upgrade. So anyway, that's my history with that. The background is what I'm using is a white backdrop, and that's what it's meant for. But it's basically a glorified sheet. And what I did, and I was hoping I could share this with you. Let me just step away for a moment. See if I can do this on a phone. I'm going to see if I can bring this in live. You recognize this, Janine?
I do. I have one here.
I'm not plugged in. I should be plugged in. Just a second. I'm not plugged in for audio. But let's see if we can bring this in.
That's a gimbal,
As a
Tom.
source.
Okay.
Using what's called NDI. See if we can bring this camera. It is not seeing this camera. I wish it would. Okay. It's not seeing it, unfortunately. Let me plug back in for audio. Anyway, what I did for the backdrop, one of the enemies, this might be in case you ever want to set something up for video, whether it's live or just recording something. One of the enemies of a small room are these light stands, tripods and light stands, because they're great for most of the way up and down, right? But then you have 3 legs that branch out and they take up space. So what I didn't want to use those types of stands for the backdrop, even though I have them. So what I did, Tom, this is kind of, I think you should be proud of me for this because I'm not a handyman. You don't find me in Home Depot very often. First thing I did was we ordered a shower rod. And we got one of those shower rods where you can extend it by turning it, right? So you get this.
Right.
And I got the two little rocking circles with the horseshoe thing that you can set it on and they stick to the wall. So that's my crossbar. So you can hang the cloth from that and put some clamps on it. But then what do you do about the sides? That's where you would normally have to deal with a pole and the three legs and now, all that clutter. So what I did was I ordered two more shower rods. And I said, okay, we'll have a vertical one over here and a vertical one over here. And we're not going to affix them to the wall, the ceiling, and the floor. We're just going to keep extending them and allow pressure to rule the day. And so they stand there, and then we got clamps on the side too, basically holding this sheet. Now there were some wrinkles, and I got a little steamer, that we purchased on Amazon, and just gave it this old treatment and let the steam do its trick, and voila, it looks like I'm a fancy pants.
Pretty
So,
smart.
yeah, so that's my approach. Now, what I also like about that is all I have to do is release these clamps. And I got these clamps, a set of 6, for $8 on Amazon. I don't want to take them off of here, but I'm using them for work for a backdrop too. Let me go grab one. So here you go. They're very powerful. They're just made out of plastic, but they're strong. And set of 6 are like $8 on Amazon. So did not cost a lot of money to do those things. And it saved me some space. So that I think worked out pretty cool. Now, in the future, I think I won't do it today, but in the future, I'll talk about, I've been exploring some live streaming tools because this isn't the only way to live stream. The live streaming community, a lot of people use what's called OBS, Open Broadcast Source, I believe is what OBS stands for, or Streamlabs OBS. Cosmic Rose says, lighting techniques, loving it without a 4x5. There you go, Cosmic Rose. And there, when I was live streaming for the state of Washington in 2017, we bought something called a TriCaster Mini by a company called NewTek, and I learned how to do it. And it's basically a powerful live streaming computer. And what happened was, as 2019 I think was coming to a close, it was around that time, Windows 7 was going out of service in a sense for Microsoft. They weren't going to continue to support it. And so the state of Washington was making sure everything was on Windows 10. And there were safety concerns and so forth. Well, that TriCaster that we purchased, and we spent, between all the peripherals with it, we spent around $14,000, $15,000 on it. They could not be upgraded to Windows 10. You just couldn't do it. So we couldn't use it, so we had to surplus it. So that was the heavy end of live streaming that I've done using that. And I used to set up 2 cameras and do it all by myself. And that's one extreme. And you guys have seen me on the light fun side of things with Periscope and some of the live streaming apps over the years. And that's a lot of fun too. But there are other approaches out there. There's some really cool popular tools in the live streaming community. A lot of YouTubers are using what's called an ATEM Mini Pro, or ATEM Mini, or an ATEM Mini Pro Solo, or the ATEM Mini Pro Extreme. And these are really cool devices which allow you to bring in multiple sources, and everything's wired. In live streaming, the people who make a living at this, wired is the way to go because it makes sure that your signals are as strong and, most importantly, secure as possible. A lot of the live streaming that we watch obviously is being done wirelessly with our phones, right? But when money's on the line and events are really big, a wired connection is, for many, the only way to go. So they make sure they have that. Anyway, that's kind of what's been keeping me busy. Using Zoom is the approach we're using here to help bring people on as panelists. And when I say the word panelist seems kind of formal, but what it basically means is this is a way that people can join and be on camera and join the discussion. Cosmic Rose says, "Oh yes, Alex Pettit demos those." Yes, Alex Pettit. Alex Pettit does the is big on the ATEM Mini, and he was really big on Periscope for a while there. I think Alex probably realized before many of us that Periscope was fairly limited in some ways if you were trying to market, and he's made a big splash and done well, it seems, on YouTube and produces good content. So thanks for that input, Cosmic Rose. So yeah, there are some really cool. There's some really cool software that's coming out as well as hardware, and we can talk about some of that, and I can show you different approaches. I've got a free install right now, limited time, vMix, which is something I've looked at for years, which is live streaming software, and there are others, and we'll just save that for another time. But I do want to point out that if anybody wanted the link, I should have brought this up early, you guys. If anybody wanted the link to this, to register for this stream, it's on beyond90seconds.com/live. And what I'll do every week is I will put the link there so that people can find it. Beyond 90 seconds beyond90seconds.com/live. And you'll find the link for this stream. I'll do this every Thursday night. We'll see how it goes. And hopefully, make something, have a cool community come together. And that's where my head's at. I'm seeing it happen elsewhere, especially with a bunch of people who are really into live streaming and tech, kind of deeper dives, people with years of experience, and people joining who have none but have great questions for them. And it's kind of like a safe place. There are no bad questions. And feel free to ask the same question, even if it was asked the previous day. We're here to help and share. And if somebody needs to know where to eat when they go to Whidbey Island or Nanaimo, British Columbia, we have people here who can recommend places, assuming it feels safe to go there. So, hey, but speaking of the pandemic, Governor Jay Inslee here in Washington State announced today that he's opening up the state. I think it's going to be June 1st, but that's coming.
Is he opening up? Are we opening up the borders yet? I don't.
Now
think
that
so.
I don't know. that I don't know. And Cosmic Rose says, "Well, I'm already here." She's on YouTube. Yes, indeed, Cosmic Rose, and thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Well, this conversation, so you never know where things are going to go. And tonight, I feel like look how this cascaded. Janine reaches out to Arnold. Arnold comes on. And he shares very, very well-spoken information that's easy to digest and understand, shares resources and perspective, and makes us aware of what's going on in British Columbia and elsewhere. And the term that Arnold used that really sounded ominous, though, to me, because despite all of that spirit of cooperation that does exist, it's up against those pressures. And what he termed as a war in the woods. I don't know if he said it's brewing or whatever, but it sounds imminent, and it's mounting. And that's something that we're definitely going to want to keep a closer eye on. And maybe we do a deeper dive on that as like a half hour or a full hour in the future. Does that interest either of you, Tom or Janine? And I'll tell you what, I'll just ask to unmute. I think I can. Can I do that? Let's see, ask to unmute. If Arnold wants to speak, he can. But would you guys like to do a little dive into that topic a little bit more so? I can do some preparation on it in the future.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Okay.
If Arnold wants to come back on, I sure would like to hear more. Would you like to do that, Arnold?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always open to that. I've done a few of them, but I don't think there's anything more pressing other than the pandemic with climate change and how we deal with that. And, so there's ways to do it, but we just have to make sure that we engage everybody. So, yeah. be great to talk about it.
That's great. Appreciate your willingness to do this. Obviously, these are very humble beginnings for this
Mhm.
for this little YouTube channel and trying something new here. But I feel like this is we're going to see a lot more of this, where people can come together and gather and share and increase awareness on important topics like this and learn from each other and help get the word out on important issues and upcoming events and opportunities. So Cosmic Rose says, I'm all for that. I planted my 4 redwoods years ago for my part. Ah, very good, Cosmic Rose. That's awesome. My dad always liked to plant trees up on Camano Island here in Washington State, spruce and others. So, yeah, I love trees. All right. Well, I tell you what, any closing thoughts from anybody? You can give it to me straight. What do you guys think? Do you like doing this? Is it something you'd like to participate in the future? It sounds like, Janine, you're on board for more talk about certain topics.
Yes, let's change the world. Let's plant the trees. The city of Nanaimo is giving out coupons. You can get 2 trees for $50, and you just go on their website, and it's fantastic. I actually am going to plant 2 trees in my yard, and I think your information about all your camera equipment is fantastic. And before we close, I really would like to hear about your microphone. I think I would like to get something similar. And what is that?
Oh, thank you for asking. This is a Shure SM7B. So Shure SHURE. And then it's the letter S as in Sam, M as in Mark, 7, B as in boy. And it's what I got to do some voiceover work. And again, I also do voiceover for some of the videos I produce for work. I produce primarily training videos now for employee development. And so kind of a jack of all trades, both behind and in front of the camera at times. So yeah, I'd be happy to ask. There are other options out there. There are great microphones out there. This is an XLR, which is like a round plug with 3 prongs inside of it. It's not a USB mic in and of itself, but what I do is I connect it to some interfaces using that XLR connection, and then I go out of the interfaces using a USB. So ultimately it's USB going into the computer. But there are similar microphones, and there are less expensive microphones that are USB that are really good. So Rode, RODE, makes the NT USB and the NT USB Mini. I got my son the Mini. I have the larger one, and those are both USB mics as well. One of the things that really adds to, not to put pressures on anybody, but I'm so glad that you found audio to be of interest, because we all think about the visual, but when video, including live streams, when the audio sounds distant or poor or just doesn't play nice, it can just really disrupt the experience and be in the way of people digesting the content that you want them to be engaged in and learn from, or just be involved in the conversation. You lose people if you have bad audio. And a lot of people will say the famous quote that, video, half the video is audio. Whether you're producing a documentary or a video for YouTube, half of it is audio. So if you get good audio, that you're halfway home. So it's good to pay attention to that if you want to kind of spruce it up a little bit. There's a YouTube channel. I kind of alluded to it earlier. I love this channel. It's been around for about a year. A lot of real smart people on it, so I like surrounding myself with people who know more than I do. The guy's name is Alex Lindsay, ALEX LINDSAY. And the YouTube channel, he refers to his program as Office Hours. And what it basically is, and I've modeled my enthusiasm stems from that channel quite a bit. It's a bunch of people who have knowledge about live streaming, broadcasting, cameras, audio, software, hardware. And there's more to it than that. But what they do is they avail themselves for 2 hours. The first hour is typically driven by the questions that people ask. Not on YouTube, although the show's on YouTube, but they're doing the Zoom thing. So they bring people into Zoom, and through Zoom, they ultimately get the questions. And so people just pepper them with questions. So like if you needed support, if you were thinking about which microphone to buy, or telling them that you're choosing between this one and this one, these guys would love, and women, they would love to answer your question. And they're very, very supportive. The second hour is usually involving a guest or guests. They've had filmmakers on, and software people on the cutting edge of things, new things that are about to come out on our phones or our tablets. So that's really cool too. They have one heck of a Discord. So Discord isn't just for kids, folks, or gamers. Discord is a powerful, powerful tool that can drive organizations, I think, to new heights. Or you can do something similar if your organization uses Microsoft Teams or something else. And what I mean by that is it's a place to go where you and others who are interested in the same type of subject matter, 24/7, it's available to you as a resource with its different channels and hashtags on everything under the sun regarding those topics. So like in this particular one, there's on their Discord for office hours, you can go into channels about cameras, you can go into channels about live streaming, you can go into channels about webcams, you can go into channels about so many things, and people, you can share links and ask questions. And I think especially in a world that is now changed greatly from a year and 3-4 months ago, the danger of, well, there are many things I love. I prefer virtual working. I love it. I don't need to go out any more than I have to unless I'm going to shoot pictures or live stream. Or jog or walk or go to the beach. Outside of that, I'd love to do stuff at home. But the danger is that people, especially people in leadership positions, supervisors, for example, managers, they may have some real unique, big, important challenges that if they're not engaging regularly with their staff. So if that distance is allowed to happen in terms of just contact, even virtual contact, all sorts of walls can be built, and there can be a real propensity for a lack of trust. And then supervisors can even get a bit fearful about even wanting to step forward or lean into something. So I think if you have something like a Discord, again, could be implemented in Teams if you use Microsoft Teams or similar software, where people can come together and share how this is how I relate to my staff. This is what's working for me. This is what's not working, and have those hashtags, those channels on issues and subject areas, and this can be their kind of almost a communal place, a living place. I think that really stokes the fire for relationships, team building, and ultimately trust. So it may sound a bit pie in the sky once again, save the world, now this. But to me, this is really exciting stuff. And I think that in this virtual place that we are finding ourselves in right now, we're really on the front edge of a lot of evolution that's happening. I don't think it's all dark and sad in terms of the virtual aspect. I think there's a lot of opportunity, not just for work and financial gain or whatever, but for connection. I've been virtually working for over a year now, and I think I know my colleagues on my immediate team far better in ways I never would have if I'd been driving my 3-hour commute, 2 to 3 hour commute to Olympia, Washington, and being on the other side of the cubicle from them. We meet every day, except for Fridays, for 15, 20 minutes in the morning. We call it our morning huddle. And then our greater team of the whole division meets biweekly. And I feel very well connected, and I really, anything that I could do to preach the positiveness in these opportunities, I'll do it, because there's so much potential, and it's sad when it goes the other way by not communicating. Wow, I didn't expect to get into all that, you guys.
It was great.
Yeah. Cosmic Rose says, thank you for posting stuff on the YouTube side, Cosmic Rose. Alex Lindsay, office hours, very good. I really appreciate your doing that, Cosmic Rose. You know, and anybody who wants to lean in and help out in terms of share the links and things like that, I love it. On the Discord side, I actually have a Discord that I will share with some. I don't want to make it really easy, low-hanging fruit for everybody right off the top, because I don't want to just open a big wide cave for trolls to enter. I want to make it a little bit challenging to get there. They have to really want to be there. But the truth is, my Discord was built and designed by my then 9-year-old son 3 years ago. And he did a phenomenal job. He's real smart when it comes to Discord. He's 12 now. And he did it so even when comments were being posted on my various social media, they would arrive in my Discord and it's a little hashtag thread type thing. I was like, how did you do that? And I asked him that the other day. Hey, look, I really want to get into Discord now, son. How did you do this? He goes, oh, I forgot how I did that. How did I do that? So anyway, there's a guy named Mark Beamish who lives near me, who oftentimes would join us on Periscope and whatnot. And he pepped up when I talked about Discord in a recent live stream. And he seems inclined to want to be in that space with this effort. So I do aim to make a community where on Discord where we can come and chat and share. So what a great topic, you know. And if this was being watched, trust me, if this was being watched by more eyes and listened to with more ears, there would be people out there who would be listening to the information that you shared and would very much appreciate the insight on what's going on inside the Home Depot, who would really appreciate and have new awareness for what's going on in the real estate market, and have certainly new awareness about some of the forest-related issues. And probably just like me thought, man, that was really cool to hear about unions and environmentalists finding a common path so they're not walking at or away from each other, but walking in step, in some ways anyway, together with a common purpose and vision. That's exciting stuff. And I just know because I was a reporter for 20 years, there are people who'd want to contact you. They would want to reach out and they would do it here in the chat, or, you know, maybe even join the panel and start adding things. Just the same way Arnold became, you know, maybe not so voluntarily, but it became part of the conversation. Others would find their way to us too, and we'd be learning and just eating that kind of stuff up as well. So at the end of the day, Janine, enjoy that walk along the beach while you know we're a generation that has it. Tom, enjoy those hikes in the woods on Whidbey Island. We're a generation that have it. And Arnold, thank you so much for sharing as well. This was a lot of fun. I don't mean to talk so much. I like to hear from you guys. Before we say so long for the YouTube broadcast, I'll keep this open if you want to have a post show. You don't need to hang around, but anything else you guys would like to add?
Oh, it's great. I'm into the post show for sure. You should stay on, Arnold, too, and Tom.
Well, I do have to go take the dog. So
Yeah.
You're walking the dog.
No worries.
But
Thank you so much.
you guys, and yeah, I enjoyed this, and there's a lot of things that need to be sorted out. So this is a good way to start.
Fantastic. Just really appreciate you. Take care. Drive safely and enjoy your time. I think you said with your daughter. It's nice to have you here, Arnold. Right on. We have another comment on the YouTube side of things. TLC 1209 says, great discussion. Love the format and all of the topics. Great to raise more awareness about the forest industry. And I learned a lot. Thanks, Mark, and everyone else. Thank you, TLC 1209. Really appreciate that. Hey, and Mark Beamish photo right on cue is in the house on YouTube. Mark worked tonight, and I don't think he got home. He said he was going to be home around 7:30-ish, and I certainly wanted to include Mark in the opportunity to be a part of this. I'll tell you what, Mark, I'm going to wrap up the live stream, but we're going to keep it going on Zoom for what I refer to as the post show. If you follow that Zoom link I sent you and register, that you'll be registered for good, and you can join in on the Zoom post show if you'd like. But as for the YouTube, I'm going to tell you what, maybe I can bring it in here, you guys. Hang on a second. I'll bring the registration link over here. Let me grab it. If you want to join the post show, you can use this to follow. Let's go to beyond90seconds.com/live. I will grab that link and share it. Where there's a will, there's a way, my mom always said. Copy link address. There it is. Okay. So let me put it in the YouTube chat. This link will probably change every week the way it's set. Cosmic Rose says, howdy at Mark Beamish Photo. So there you go. If you follow that link, folks watching on YouTube, in the YouTube chat, that will get you to the Zoom side of things, where you're more than welcome to join the conversation or just listen in. If you want to be seen and heard, video and audio, I can make you a panelist. That's the Zoom terminology. Otherwise, you'll be what's called an attendee, and that means you're kind of like out there in the gallery, and no one's going to see you, no one's going to hear you, and you can put questions in the chat or make comments. So very cool. Thanks a lot, everybody. I really had a great time tonight. Thank you for watching. And Cosmic Rose says, hold on, must switch device. We'll see you over there. Take care, everybody, on YouTube, and stick around, folks on Zoom. So